What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hardworking Happy Hour. I'm Sean.
And I'm Catherine, and as always, we're breaking down all things trades, entrepreneurship, and turning your creativity into a passion career. Hey, Sean.
What's up, Catherine? How are we doing today?
Oh, pretty good. Can't complain. How are you?
Can't complain? That's good. That's such a weird thing that people say.
Can't complain.
Can't complain. Be a little more joyous. That's something I've recently noticed. Like when people call me and they're like, "Hey, how's it going?" I always say, "Pretty good." Yeah, pretty good. How's it going? I'm going to change that to "I'm doing fantastic."
Yeah, pretty good seems like you're fishing for somebody to pry a little deeper. Pretty good. It's not like good or like bad. It's like pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. How you doing? Yeah, it's just what rolls off my tongue, but I'm going to change that because most of the time I'm doing excellent.
Yeah. And
then when I'm not, you know what I'm going to say?
Excellent.
No, I'm going to say I'm not doing well at all.
Oh, you're going to let the people know. Okay.
Yeah. And they're going to be like, "Sir, I'm just trying to sell you solar over the phone." Well, you called me. All right, pal? I don't have time for this because I'm crying. I'm just kidding. But anyway, what's going on otherwise? How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. It's a bit of a rainy day. Been working at home all day, which always throws me off a good bit. What about you?
Oh, it was an eventful day. I woke up. Well, let me backtrack. All
right, start from the beginning.
Let me backtrack. The day started in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia?
Post midnight. Yeah, I was at a concert last night.
Past midnight. Wow.
I really was. It was the first time in, I cannot even tell you how long. It's been so long, but went and saw Zach Bryan.
Good?
Oh my God. Excellent. So good. So good. And
I do want to compliment you on your investigative skills because you've been talking about this concert and you said you think Bruce Springsteen is going to come out. And I saw from photos that he did.
And if Sarah hears you say that and giving me any credit at all, she will kill me and you. Because
it wasn't you, it was her.
That was absolutely not me at all. No, that was completely her.
Okay.
Because they came out with a song together on his new album, and as she looked it up, her family is completely nuts about Bruce Springsteen. It's to the point where it's pretty weird. But she was like, he's done his European tour. He doesn't have another show until 2 weeks from now. He lives about an hour away. He's going to come out for the show. And boom, he did. And the boss, you get the boss there?
That's pretty cool.
I mean, the
pretty
boss.
Cool. Pretty big time.
Yeah.
And it was like in the stadium. That's like, my God.
It was pretty cool. And I'm not like hip on new artists at all. I guess he's not really a new artist, but I didn't know he was that popular. So I'd heard about him a little bit. Sarah really started liking him, I don't know, maybe like a year or two ago. But selling out 2 nights at the
wild.
Link.
Yeah, that's really crazy.
It's really crazy. But it was really cool. I've never been to a stadium show before, and it's pretty wild. Pretty wild. So great time. The boss came out. I mean, come on, how could it get any better? And I was out so late. Latest I've ever been out, probably my whole entire life. Didn't get home till like 1 a.m. And then got home. Concrete forms coming off this morning, off of the slab for the Dream Shop.
So exciting. And then we cleared out our job today. I got the trailers out of there, got all the tools out, did final cleanup. We got probably, a little punch list stuff to do, but for the most part, we're out of there and ready for their party that they're having on Saturday. Nice.
Yeah.
Did we get an invite?
Absolutely not.
Perfect.
Absolutely not. Nothing like, planning a party for like 100 people, like a day after we're like potentially supposed to be done. So
yeah, they love a tight timeline.
Hey, I perform best under pressure, so we got it done. The landscaper is not going to have the sod down, so we'll let the homeowner deal with that. We have no affiliation with the landscaper. He hired the landscaper, so
yeah,
they're going to do the sod. So, So
right.
it's been an eventful day, to say the least.
Definitely.
To say the least. Yeah. What else is going on in the world of Catherine Lippincott this week?
Am I supposed to have something exciting happening?
Probably not.
Okay.
We're at the age where,
I don't.
I went to a concert last
lady,
night.
She came today, so that was pretty exciting.
You know my stance on the cleaning lady.
What?
You know where I stand on it. We have them.
Yeah.
I had them as I don't know why we had a cleaning lady as a kid, because like we were like poor.
Yeah.
I don't want to say like poor, but like we were, pretty poor. Not making ends meet all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think it was my mom's friend, and I don't know. We had a cleaning lady. And it was always the worst thing. It's like the cleaning lady's coming, so we got to make sure we clean up.
Yeah, you got to clean for the cleaning lady. It is. And last night, as we were cleaning up for the cleaning lady, I realized there's so much dog hair just like everywhere right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel bad. I feel like I should vacuum for this cleaning lady. But I was like, well, that's what she's for. That's what she's for.
That would be completely against the point. So
I know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was my day. We should talk about. We're getting back to drinking. We're getting back to our drinking roots. I'm having a Leinenkugel Summer Shandy, my personal favorite beer. What are you having?
I'm having a high noon, a nooner. Love those.
Nice,
Love those.
Nice.
So refreshing.
They are good.
As I get older, I'm more into like fruity, flavorful kind of stuff,
Yeah.
I'm not into...
Enjoy it.
The...
Choking back a Miller Lite or whatever.
I mean,
I'll Miller Lite.
I'll put one back, but if I have the preference, I want something that tastes like juice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just not as tough and hard as I used to be, but that's neither here nor there. Why don't we get into what we're going to be talking about, the nuts and bolts of this episode, because this is a new frontier for this podcast, week 2 of the rest of our lives. And we're doing tons of research. We're looking into cool topics.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. So what do we got this week for our audience?
All right. So as I was perusing around the internet, deciding what to talk about this week, I kept seeing, it's back to school season. Everybody's going back to school. Everyone's, that's the time of year. Everyone's excited about it. They're sending their kids off to college, or maybe not. And I was thinking, it's the age-old debate of whether to go to college, go into trades, which path your life is going to take at this young, vulnerable age. And I know we've talked about this in the past about, where we stand on where we think our paths should have went or did go or whatever. But I just think that from like a statistic and analytic perspective, it's an interesting thing to talk about because trends are definitely changing. And I knew that. But then when I like really dove into the statistics,
Dovin, yeah.
When I dove into the statistics, it was really interesting to see. So I figure we can talk about that a little bit and like what kind of the workforce will look like in the future, at least where the projections think that they're headed in the future.
Yeah, because most of the time that we're hearing stuff about college versus the trades, it's, our universe around social media and like the people that we follow, it's mostly people that are in the trades. Whether they've gone to college or not, a lot of the people that we just happen to follow are people in the trade. So it's usually kind of skewed that way. It's just, hey, we know there's labor shortages. The average person in the trades is getting older and there's not enough replacements. But, it'd be nice to instead of just saying like, trades are better. We need more plumbers. We need more electricians. It'd be nice to, have some... know where we stand here. It's a biased report. So I'm excited to know. I feel like this trend's been happening in the last couple of years where the trades have really been talked up. So I'm interested to see where it stands right now and where they project it to go. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And you've also got some construction news for us about some new, not new, but the building materials.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. Just a teaser.
I'll give a little teaser. It's always interesting when you hear like innovative wood things, I think. There's not, there's only so much you can do with wood. I mean, you can do a lot of things with wood, but wood at its core is wood. So there's like a cool, innovative little thing that I hadn't heard of. You hadn't heard of, I think. Kind of heard of the concept, but not truly the execution of it. And they're building skyscrapers out of it. So I'm really excited to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of just new stuff around an old thing is always really interesting. It's when something's been around for a long time, you just think, what else can I do with it? Well,
yeah,
we're gonna learn about that this week, and then of course we have our construction trivia, and I spent a lot of time looking up some questions for this, and I'm really excited. So why don't we get into the episode? We're starting with
all right,
college and the trades,
college
2024
and the trades
prediction report.
So
hardworking happy hour.
I'm going to try to make this
all rights reserved
as fun and interesting and not dry and boring. So what percentage let's say in 2022, this is the statistics as of 2022. What percentage of high school students go on to college? What percentage do you think it is?
Graduates? High school graduates?
Correct.
I feel like this is pretty tough because it's probably really depends on your social economic status and geographically where you live, cultural things. I'll say, I imagine it's probably right around 50%. I would think maybe a little bit less than 50%. 47.
Why do you think that? What's your reasoning behind half?
I just think that, in like a school like we both went to, it was kind of middle of the road. I'd say like very middle class, probably leaning a little bit on the lower end of middle class. And I'd say most people went to college. I'd say probably 70% or so of people we graduated with probably went to college. But I would definitely suspect that in more impoverished areas, it's a lot less. And then I think there's probably a lot of areas of the country where, it's just more of like a cultural thing where maybe it's a manufacturing hub and, or area with coal miners or something like that. I don't know. That's just my guess. I'm going to guess 47%.
Okay. It's actually 62%, which I was actually thinking the same thing. I was like, it's probably, I would say around half, probably a little bit less than half, but it's actually 62% as of 2023, which has been dropping at around 1 to 1.5% every year since 2011, which that's a pretty high percentage of college entry. And it really peaked in 2010, which is kind of funny because had I graduated, that would have been the year that I graduated college. So we always talk about how it is like it was forced upon us when we were younger. It was like, go to college. That's the only path. So between the 1980s and 2010, the college entry percentage increased about 2.5% every single year. That's how much that they were pushing college entry instead of alternative options. So I was surprised by that. I knew that it was falling, but I didn't realize it was such a high peak, and especially in like 2010. And then now it's kind of slowly falling off. So it's really shows how hard this country was like pushing the whole college narrative that you go to college and that's how you make something of yourself. And now we are directly seeing that. Excuse me. Because I feel like in probably like the 70s, 80s, tradespeople were everywhere and everyone was like a skilled carpenter. And I feel like that was just how like our parents were raised. Everyone knew how to do that kind of stuff, even if it wasn't necessarily their like full career path. And then now we're in like a deficit, and it's because of this college narrative. So I found those statistics to be very interesting, and I'm really interested to see where it goes in the future. And the projection is that it is just going to continue to decrease until it gets to be about 50-50. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, and I wonder if it is like, like I imagine that the amount of people going to college or the trades, that's probably like a lagging indicator of what the current like economic demand for each thing is. So like I imagine in the 80s, that's like kind of on the tail end of like the baby boomer generation getting like their first homes and all that kind of stuff. So there was probably such a humongous demand for trades at that point And, I think, like I said, I think it's probably a lagging indicator. Like, you kind of are in high school in those years where it's really just everybody's in the trades. There's so much building going on. And you're like, that's where I'm going to decide to go. And then, the 80s, it probably cooled off quite a bit. And then, you start to see people say, okay, well, I'm going to go to college instead. Until, our age, that's when you really started to see people graduate from college and like not have a career path from there. It was like it became just like a prerequisite. Like you have to have a college degree. It almost doesn't really matter what it's in for most jobs. You just have to have one, and it's going to be entry level, like as entry level as it could possibly be, where you're not going to use your degree whatsoever, but it's just kind of to weed people out. And I think once it got to that point and people realize that there's not a whole lot of opportunities, that starts to tip the scales again and say, you know what, maybe I've seen what's happened to my older siblings or whatever, or older cousins, or I've just been watching the news and I'm going to go into the trades or work at a factory or a coal mine. I don't know.
Or a coal mine. Yeah.
Or a coal mine.
Yeah. So we talked about this earlier when we were talking about this topic too, and kind of like the availability of money. And I think that people are now, with all like the student loan debt getting forgiven, and it's like much more top of mind about maybe 18-year-olds shouldn't be taking out like $100,000 loans. But it was incredibly easy to get a loan, and it still is incredibly easy to get a loan. To get a federal education loan, you don't need a credit check and you don't need a cosigner. They just give you money. If you go the private route, you probably will need a cosigner, but lots of people's parents will cosign for them. But the availability of these loans is it's still pretty available to people. So I think back in the day, people were not quite as and maybe it's just from my perspective, I didn't know anything about money at all when I was like in high school. I had no realm of anything to compare it to. So no one talked about money or loans or payments, or that you'd be paying off these loans until you're 35. And, but I think that now all of that information is much more readily available for these students who are graduating and thinking like, what should I do? I'm looking at this trades job where I'm going to be making like $75,000 a year right out of the gate, or I can take out this $100,000 loan and go to college, which is more appealing to me.
Right.
So I think that it's a situation where the information is more readily available. It's out there now, and people are kind of making much more informed decisions than they have been in the past.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And it gets so dicey because it's like, to me, it seems so easy to say, well, just like you should make the loans harder to get. But then it really just becomes like a class thing, then it's really just like, okay, people that are from poor families or impoverished areas, or they just, don't have access to education. And that's not really the answer. It's really, I think it probably does crux more on the information part of it rather than the access to it, because, you want people to have equal opportunity. And like, just because you grow up in a family where your parents aren't financially responsible doesn't mean that, you shouldn't be able to pursue an education that you want, as long as it's hopefully thought out and like, not just, hey, I'm going to go to college just because I'm going to go to college. Like if there's an intent behind it that really makes sense, I think, there should be access to financial aid or loans. So it's tough to say like, what is the cause of this? What should be done to change it? But the easier loans are to get, the more expensive colleges just tend to get, because it's like everyone's getting approved for loans. So the tuition just keeps going up. So it's so dicey, and there's so many people that are just so greedy that just want more money.
I know.
God.
It's crazy.
Goes back to, why can't everyone just be chill?
Yeah.
Why can't everyone just be cool about this? Just teach people, make it reasonably priced. Just be cool, everybody.
Yeah. I'm kind of torn on that, because my mom is one of those moms that, like, even though I'm 36, she still brings over tubs of like my old stuff every once in a while. And recently she brought me over a tub of all of my college stuff. So all of my bills, everything like was in there, and I could see how much money I spent on college, which was back then it was like about $40,000 a year, which is a lot of money. Now it would be like, I think it was like $65,000 or something like that a year. And back then it was a college, then it turned into a university and just accepted more and more students and blah, 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 blah. And it just went out of business this year. So I'm like, how much money? Like, what are you doing with all this money that you guys are charging? It must be incredibly expensive to run a college, because they spent a lot of time and money to become a university, and then they went out of business. It's like, okay, well.
Somebody probably got really rich in the meantime.
Probably, yeah.
I'm sure. Dang, weasels out there just stealing everybody's money.
That's
typical.
Probably it, yeah.
So what about, what does, they predict that it's going to decrease about 1% to 1.5% every year until it gets to about 50-50. Is that just a trend that they're seeing and they're predicting it to continue, or is there something that is like, why are they saying at 50-50 they predict it to kind of stop and level off? Is there a reason for that they indicated?
So that is what they estimate would be like best for, I don't want to say best for the country, but best for the economy if there is that kind of 50-50 split.
Yeah.
That means that all career paths are kind of covered, and we have all the people that we need in both of these different realms. But they also talked a lot about how public perception plays into it, and how these things, like, they think that that's probably what it's going to be, but there's probably going to be some back and forth between the two, because for a while it was viewed as like it's the manly thing to do, to work with your hands, and that's what you do. It's hard work, but it's good work. And then it became, no, college is what you want to do. You want to be a smart, educated person, and you want to have that piece of paper to tell everybody that you are that smart, educated person. And right now we're kind of at that tipping point where it's going back to like, yeah, you can get your degree or whatever, but like real good, honest work is good, honest work. So public perception plays a ton into this debate. And I think that as much as they think that it's going to go down to 50-50, my opinion would be more so that it's always just going to fluctuate between those two things, because I had no business going to college. I didn't want to go to college, but I went because everybody else went, and I felt like that's what I needed to do. So I feel like that's just always going to be how it goes. It's just going to be all about the public perception. And right now, a lot of people are looking at the trades and thinking they're short staffed, and that's where the money is. You can make a really good living doing that kind of work right now because it's scarce. But if everybody does that, then they're gonna be like, wow, it's kind of hard to find a doctor these days. Then people are gonna start going that way. So
I having it fluctuate is probably always going to happen, because it's like, you kind of increase the demand for one side of this, and then until it gets saturated, and it's like, oh, you can't really find a job as a plumber anymore because a lot of people can't afford to eat, therefore they can't poop as much, therefore there's not as much work. So the plumbing business has dried up. But it's funny that people think, oh, I got to go to college so I can show this piece of paper and say I'm smart and I'm worth it. And then you just get a cool tradesperson walks up, rips that paper in half and says, shut up, nerd.
Gives him a swirly.
Yeah, swirly or a wedgie or whatever. I forget what a front wedgie's called. I think it's called a Melvin.
Never heard that.
Aunt told me about that. So
a front wedgie, that's brutal.
That's the trades. But so what other things did you find in your research that you found interesting, or we should let our audience know about?
Let's see, what else did I get? So I found lots of statistics about entry level positions after you either graduate from college or you graduate from high school and you go into the trades, and that is and has always been, if you go straight into the trades, you're going to make more money immediately. Yeah. But the trajectory of a college degree is going to outweigh that in the future, apparently, or so they say, on average.
Yeah.
But that gap has been closing, and it seems like with these trades, for these I'm kind of ignoring like laborer positions, but it seems like more people are beginning to start the trades path of having like a more specialized career and business ownership and like more manager positions. So that path is kind of closing, and those opportunities are more out there. And there are now, I mean, there's always been like tech schools, like ITT Tech or whatever.
Yeah.
But now there are even more almost college level. I don't even know what they're called. There's one around here. I can't even remember what it's called. I don't know. Advanced degrees, but it's where you would go. It's like if you went to like a tech school in high school, then you could continue your education almost as if it were a college. And usually it's like a two-year degree.
Okay.
Or something like that. But with those, it's more of like an advanced degree that kind of puts you ahead of everybody else. Because it's always going to be a spectrum, and your laborers are going to be the least paid, and your higher positions obviously will be the higher paid. So I found that really interesting that the gap is kind of closing too, because they're seeing these as valuable careers, and they're not just going into these careers being like, you know, I can't really get a job anywhere else, I'll just go be a laborer. Like they're viewing them more as valued careers and something that they want to, you know, have a good career path on, rather than just getting to a position and being like, well, I started at 70K and I'm going to die at 70K.
I have I don't know if this would be a hypothesis or a theory, because I'd probably have to test it, but I think it's basically like kind of almost as much of a law as is gravity. And that is, the less money you get paid and the less skilled you are in the construction industry, the more likely you are to tell a nerd to shut up. I'd say that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah, okay.
You know, you got your laborers, your grunt workers in the construction industry.
Mm-hmm.
High likelihood of telling a nerd to shut up. As you get higher up that ladder, you're like, you know, you're probably less likely to tell a nerd to shut up. So
yeah, all right. I think we should put this out to a poll to our listeners on your job sites. Good. Who is the most likely to tell a nerd to shove it?
Oh, to shove it. Okay. I was just saying shut up, but shove it. Okay. Nothing against nerds. We're all nerds at heart, so it's just a joke. Take it easy, nerds. Anyway, another question that I have for you is, you know, I think there was such a huge opportunity with unions in the skilled trades, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have stuff on that?
I have a union statistic that I was just about to bring up. Yeah, continue.
Okay. Well, it was going to be, I feel like, you know, unionship is decreasing. It seems like they're harder to get into, you know, and that was like a formal apprenticeship where you go, you become an apprentice, you learn at the end of 4 years, you know, you're doing schooling this whole time, you become a journeyman. And it doesn't seem like there is, at least in my opinion or my knowledge, it doesn't seem like there is as much of a replacement for that. Like you're saying, there are some tech schools for advanced degrees and things like that, but it doesn't seem like there's enough to replace what a traditional formal union apprenticeship was and is.
Yeah. So what's the question? No, I don't understand what the question is. That was more of a statement?
It was more of a statement, and it's kind of a question around, are unions kind of declining in membership and all that kind of stuff, and you know, where are these like advanced degree tech schools beyond high school, where are they headed, and is there, you know, more demand for that, or do you think that's going to be something that does come?
Yeah. So union memberships have been decreasing by about 0.4% for the past 12 years was the statistic that I saw. So it's not like it's not a massive decline, but it is over time definitely something that I'm sure that they feel. I was trying to find some articles about whether that's like self-inflicted, like they're just harder to get into, or if it's just less of a demand. And it kind of, I saw a lot of both. So I'm not I don't have a definitive answer on what is causing that decline, but because it seems like people have opinions that it might be both. But with the places that I was talking about, those degreed places, I think that those also have an element of business ownership classes to them. So I think that those people are usually the people that want to just immediately go out on their own and maybe not find like a traditional apprenticeship position. But those are also so new, I'm not sure, and new and rare. So I'm not really sure what the path will be for them. And they're also, from what I've seen, for-profit universities, which do not have a
soul.
Yes, they do not have soul.
Yeah.
They do not have a history for longevity, I will say.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how those will pan out in the future, but I think it's cool to have an option right now. I think that if, for people any opportunity to learn is a good opportunity. So
Agreed.
I think that it'll be interesting to see if those do take off or what will happen with those.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I just want to say incredible reporting.
Oh, thank
really
you.
just killing it with the hard-hitting statistics and having the stats to back it up. Just really a great job. Do you have anything else for us, or can we just, I guess at this point, see what happens next?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I have some other stuff about like stereotypes and all that kind of stuff, but I think we're good on that.
I think we know.
Anybody who's listening to this,
people in the trades, stupid people that work on computers, nerds. Pretty much covers the stereotypes there. I think.
You got it.
Yeah, that's gonna make a great clip. The lower you get paid in the construction industry, the more likely you are to tell a nerd to shut up. I'm standing behind it.
I didn't know where you were going with it, but I wholly agree. I think
it's hard to refute that hard hitting. Just people just know that that's a fact. It's just tale as old as time. All right, well, let's get into our next segment, which is hit that button. Construction news.
Construction news.
Starring the one and only Catherine Lippincott, because she also did the research for this. You're probably all wondering, Sean, what the hell do you do? And I'm wondering that as well. Hey, I came up with the best joke of the episode. I mean, come on.
Nailed it.
I think I'm in the lead right now.
For sure.
All right,
you're
well,
doing
I'm excited.
A great job. First of all, you're doing a great job.
Thank you so much.
You
Appreciate
do a
that.
great job. So don't.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so as I was, again, perusing the internet, looking at things, I saw something called CLT, which stands for
Catherine Lippincott Talks.
I like that. Cross laminated timber. And there's abbreviations for everything nowadays, and I'm always like, what does that mean? What are we talking about here? And I asked you because I was like, well, I hadn't heard of this. You hadn't heard of this either, right? What?
Just can I say something?
Yes.
Unrelated.
Sean, how I may help you?
Yes, a little bit unrelated, but kind of totally related. Two things. First of all, do you see this fly that's flying around? It is.
I can't see the fly.
I'm losing my mind with this fly. I can not stand it, and I will not stand it. And I hope it knows as soon as this episode's over, I'm going to go full assassin. It is not going to be pretty for you. So you better fly away now while you still have a chance. Anyway, the other thing that it reminded me of that is slightly off topic is I had to clear so many trees for the shop.
Yeah.
Here at my house, and Nick kept asking every time I'd say, yeah, cut down a couple more trees. He kept saying, did you yell timber when it fell? And I said, no, I forgot. I never yelled it. And
Not
I feel
once?
like not even once. I kept forgetting.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and then I'd come in again. Hey, I cut down a couple more trees. Did you yell timber? No, damn it, I forgot. So anyway, back
Are
to...
you done cutting? Do you have another opportunity? Can you...
I mean, I'd say there's probably
happen?
like another 400 trees here, so I think I could make another opportunity.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Back to it. Sorry for that.
Okay, so cross-laminated timber. It's a new wood product, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And it is kiln-dried dimensional lumber, usually 3, 5, 7, or 9, oriented at right angles to one another, and then glued to form structural panels. By gluing layers of wood at right angles, the panels deliver excellent structural rigidity in both directions. So, we all know the different kinds of engineered woods and all that kind of stuff. But this is like a new one that they're using to build literal skyscrapers in place of steel. It's replacing steel and concrete, which I think is amazing because wood is a renewable resource. So that's an advantage. And it's so much lighter than steel and concrete that now that I'm saying that out loud, in my brain, I'm like, oh, to build it, that would be so much easier. But maybe the weight is good when you're building skyscrapers. I'm not sure. I've never built a skyscraper.
You haven't?
I've never built one, no.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. I thought you did. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I don't. I think it really just matters on, the flexion, like the amount of deflection that would be in it. That would, I don't think the weight would really have much play in that. I think as long as you can eliminate deflection. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a good question. It's a good question. It's a good question about deflection.
Yeah. So in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, they just built a building called the Ascent, and it's 40 stories built with this CLT instead of steel and concrete. And it's the it's the largest mass timber structure in the United States.
Really gassy.
I'm burping a lot. I'm so sorry. That's
My
disgusting.
God. It's horrible.
It's really disgusting. I'm sorry about that.
It's horrible. Get it together.
And I feel like that's really innovative because all of our comments, whenever we build stuff with timber framing, people are always like, oh, in the United States, these people just build stuff to blow away or whatever. Concrete and steel is the future. How they're building houses with wood still? That's crazy.
Yeah.
We get that a lot. So I feel like this is kind of a cool new way of making a more powerful wood rather than steel, something that's never going to decompose or never going to be environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
And concrete, which is, working its way to trying to be more environmentally friendly. But wood is a renewable resource. We can just make more trees whenever we want.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of the lumber that's used, I'd say at least in this country, I'm not sure worldwide, kind of where what they're doing with their forests, but most lumber, probably I would say almost all lumber used in the U.S. is harvested from renewable forests. So it's something that they cut one down, they plant more, and it's something that can be renewed and not create a deficit. It's not like they're cutting down trees that took 600 years, 1,000 years to grow, and they're just cutting them down, and now the forest is bare. They're doing species that grow really fast, are kind of modified, selected genetically to grow straighter and with less offshoots. So it's just easier to harvest it. It's more efficient. So yeah, for the most part, I think it is a much more, it can be a completely renewable resource, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. So maybe you're thinking, hey, what are the disadvantages here?
Exactly what I was thinking.
It is, at the current state, more expensive than steel or concrete, but that's mostly because there's so few plants making this stuff that the transportation costs are really high. Because it would be, if you're making it in New Jersey and you're shipping it to Wisconsin, that's going to be pretty costly. So that is something with interest will decrease and become more competitive. Also, with stuff like this, there's no wall cavities, so it makes things like electrical and plumbing, that kind of stuff, a little bit more difficult because you have to plan around not having open wall cavities because this is layered stuff. And also currently, what's that phase for?
A fly.
Okay, still the fly. Got it.
Still the fly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Currently, there's lots of code restrictions on timber building and how high you can make them. Just an instance of codes not being up to date with products. So I'm sure that will change. Not a super big issue at this moment.
Yeah. So let me get this straight. So essentially, it's sort of like plywood on a larger scale, instead of it being super thin veneers that are laminated and cross laminated to create strength. It is dimensional lumber now glued together and cross laminated. So essentially the wall it's essentially plywood really big, kind of blown up.
Yeah.
So that is the wall. Like, instead of like a 2x4 wall and then plywood on the outside, it's just like you have this huge panel, which is what, like maybe 6 inches thick, or it probably depends, I'm sure. But so that is the panel.
Yeah, it turns it into like a structural member in and of itself.
Gotcha.
So you can use it for floors. You can use it for like anywhere you would have like concrete and steel. You can replace that with this wood.
Gotcha. That's super interesting. So it's really getting close to like creating Lego pieces almost. Right?
Yeah, God, yeah, sure, yeah.
Like you're really just like, you don't have to assemble these things together to make the structural thing. Like a 2x4 is structural, but one 2x4 isn't going to support a story above it. You know, you have to like assemble them in a certain way, whereas this is, you know, I'm sure with this cross laminated timber, you're creating strength 100 times what a traditional 2x4 wall is with 16 on center joists. This thing it's solid 2x4s laminated together, cross laminated. So super interesting. What?
And this isn't, you wouldn't use this for like a house, like that would not be necessary. But for something like a skyscraper or like something like a very tall building, this would be much more necessary.
Feasible.
Yeah.
So are these things made in kind of standard sizes, or is it, or even thicknesses, or is it the type of thing where it's more of just a technology rather than a product, where it's spec'd out for a certain building depending on, you know, what the load on that wall is, and then everything's kind of built to size? Or is it like we have, you know, a CLT5 is a 5 lam piece? Like, what's that look like? Or is it all kind of custom construction?
So they come in, it's usually 3, 5, or 7 layers.
Okay.
And then when, like, if someone were to be building a skyscraper out of this, it would be ordered for that build in the different like panels. They would work to make it so it's like the same panel over and over again. But those are it is 3, 5, or 7 usually. But these places, you know, you can always customize to whatever you need it to be.
Yeah.
But
super interesting.
I know. And then I also went on, do you want to hear about the other kinds of glued together woods there are?
Absolutely. Because we use them a lot, and we sometimes use different ones, and I don't totally understand the difference. Yeah.
So there's PLT, parallel laminated timber. So that's the same thing as CLT, but they're all running parallel.
Okay.
They're usually, this is in meters, 4 to 6 meters long, and it's manufactured and cut to fit your project. Typically used
like
for floors.
12 to 20 feet.
Okay. Typically used for floors, mezzanines, and roofs. And then you got your GLT, which is a glue lam. We know what that is. But those are used for beams and posts. And then there's LVLs, which is...
Well, hold on. A glue lam, just because a lot of times especially like residential construction, a lot of these terms are kind of used interchangeably, kind of like in, you know, like, oh, I threw a beam up, or there's a glue lam in there, or an LVL, or a paralam. So a glue lam, just so I'm sure, that's basically like when you see 2x4s, it looks like 2x4s stacked together on top of each other, and then it's pressed and glued. Is that correct?
Correct. It is a glue laminated timber. Glue lam.
I mean, they're all glued
laminated
together.
timber. Well, sure, yeah.
And they're all laminated.
The difference between glue lam is that it has
and they're all timber.
It has a finish, or not a finished grade, but it has a finished grade finish. So it doesn't look like some sort of glued together thing. Although I feel like it kind of does. The ones that we have.
Yeah, it 100% does. Yeah, it just looks like a stack of 2x4s that were pressed together and glued.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's interesting.
And then there's LVLs. And
laminated veneer timber.
Lumber.
Lumber.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Made by peeling wood veneers and laminating them together, resulting in a very consistent and strong building material. Typically used for columns, joists, lintels, and rafters.
Now, I don't know if you know this. What kind of glue is typically used to assemble these things?
That I don't know.
That might be proprietary.
I bet that would be.
Yeah.
But
I wonder if it's hazardous.
Why?
I don't know. Just wondering.
In general? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, you kind of like, I think about the when you just think about cross-laminating pieces together and the grains going in different directions, it's super easy to wrap your head around, oh, wow, that would make an incredibly strong piece of lumber. But it's kind of all hinging on the fact that the glue is holding it together. So,
enough, yeah.
It's in traditional wood glue, when it's, two pieces are put together and it's clamped and it's sets, it's so strong. So maybe it's just kind of like regular wood glue almost. I don't know. But I'd be interested to know a little bit more about what is the adhesive that's keeping this whole thing together.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Something to think about.
Excuse me.
We should have, I think, for this episode, a fly counter every time the fly flies by, and a burp counter. I think that would be fun.
Okay, I do apologize. All right. So, do you have any other questions about CLT, or do you want to move on to our next segment?
No, I think I'm pretty good. It's really interesting that they're building entire skyscrapers out of it. It's crazy. It'd be so cool to see what one looks like. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive on, I'm going to do a bit of a shallow dive on it and just look at some pictures of it. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting and, very fun. So great research once again on that interesting topic. And I'm not totally sure what our next segment is, but I think everybody kind of knows it's time for our working happy hour trivia spectacular. So, Catherine, I know you're up 1-0, but get ready. It's going to be tied 1-1 because you're going down.
I was wondering if you were going to make your questions very hard this week because I did make mine. Well, this week I took it easy on you. Last week,
okay.
My one was a little.
All right. No, I still, I'm just a fair, nice, honest person. So I kept them reasonable.
Okay.
And what I thought was, what I think is so cool about this is it's so fun to answer trivia questions and people can listen along and see if they can guess the right answer, but then also learn a little bit. So what I have done is I have followed up with like some explanation in addition to the question. So I thought this would be fun. You want me to go first here, or do you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. True or false? Post-tension concrete achieves a higher strength than pre-tensioned concrete. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
True or false? Post-tensioned concrete achieves a higher strength than pre-tensioned concrete. I'm sure you've heard these words before.
I'm going to go false.
You are going to be false.
Dang it!
Because you're wrong. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Okay. So post-tension concrete is stronger. And have you heard these terms before?
Yeah.
I've heard like a post-tension slab. And
I couldn't explain to you what it is, but I have heard these terms, yes.
Guess what? Me either. So you know what I did?
Googled it.
Well, no, I used AI. I used Google Gemini. And I said, what is the difference between pre-tension and post-tension concrete? Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Oh, okay.
So it did such a great job. It says, imagine building with super strong noodles. There are two ways to make these super strong noodles. Pre-tension noodles, you stretch the noodles first, then put them in a mold and add concrete. This makes the noodles really strong when the concrete dries. Post-tension noodles, you put the noodles in a mold without stretching them, add concrete, and then stretch the noodles after the concrete is dry. This makes the noodles super strong.
How do you tension them if they're already in the concrete? How do you tension those noodles?
Well, it's not, the noodles is just you don't build with noodles actually, but
it's not noodles.
I think the rebar is extending beyond the slab, and then it is then tensioned. So it's
very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it is to add compressive strength to the tensile strength. I don't know. It's really interesting. But,
that is interesting.
All right, well, you got that one wrong. So let's get on to my question.
Okay. I went kind of meta with my question. Do you know that iconic photo called what?
This isn't a do you know question. It's a true or false.
Well, yes, it's going to be a true or false, but I gotta framing it. I'm framing it.
You're doing a prologue to your question? Okay, go ahead.
You know that photo? It's called Lunch on a Skyscraper,
yes.
and it's like all of those people on that like
beam
skyscraper. There's like 12 people. They're eating lunch. It's called Lunch Atop a Skyscraper. Very famous photo. People always had that photo in like their college dorm room or whatever.
Ironic.
Yeah.
Because those people on that beam would be like, nerd.
Nerd. Is that real? Were they really on that beam? True or false?
True, yeah.
It is true, but it was a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
It wasn't. They weren't really eating lunch, but they really were up there.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
All right.
Do whatever back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. All right. 1-0. There you go. I'm up. Okay. This one kind of goes in perfectly with your last question.
Okay.
All right. I think everybody knows what the world's tallest building is. It is
the Burj Khalifa.
The Burj Khalifa, exactly. So, besides the Burj Khalifa, what is the second tallest building in the world? Is it A, One World Trade Center in New York City? B, Willis Tower, Chicago? C, Merdeka 118 in Kuala Lumpur? Or D, Taipei 101 in Taiwan?
Great question.
Thank you so much.
I feel like it's the Chicago one, but I also feel like it's probably not in the United States. The Chicago one. I feel like it might be the Chicago one.
The Willis Tower of Chicago is the shortest of those four options. So you got that one wrong as well. It is Merdeka 118 in Kuala Lumpur.
Oh, okay. Cool name.
I was getting a little worried there because, you were like, oh, it's probably not in the United States. And then I realized the two that are not in the United States are Merdeka 118 and Taipei 101.
Yeah.
Probably is in reference to how many floors they are.
Oh, okay.
So that would have been an easy way to decipher.
Sense, yeah.
So I'm glad that you just kind of jumped into your gut feeling. And the Willis Tower was previously the Sears Tower.
Okay.
So
at one point that was the tallest, though, right?
I actually don't think it was.
Okay.
I'm not totally sure.
Chicago had something really tall, but I was hinging it was Chicago. I thought Chicago had something, but whatever.
Michael Jordan, he's tall.
Is he? Okay, yeah. Maybe that's what I'm thinking
That's probably what you're thinking of. Okay. All right. Give me my multiple choice, please.
Okay. The hammer in its current state.
Yes.
A piece of wood and something atop it. Or,
yes.
It doesn't have to be wood, but you know what I mean. What we currently know a hammer to be.
Mm-hmm.
How old is that technology? Is it A, 75,000 years old, B, 30,000 years old, C, 10,000 years old, or D, 1,000 years old?
All right, so what was 75,000 was the first one?
Yes.
Wood and with a metal top?
Yes, like a two-piece thing.
It's metal, not rock on top.
Correct. The technology for a hammer is like 1 million years old. So like that was originally like a rock But
well, I didn't know if you were considering a rock on top of a stick is that 2-piece thing that you're looking for, but it's metal.
Metal.
Okay. 30,000 years old. I don't think they were forging metal at that point. I mean, they were definitely, 10,000.
Wrong. 30,000.
Metal.
Yeah.
Where?
I don't know.
This is a lie. This is a lie.
It's not a lie.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
This is an AI question. This is an AI question. Are you Googling?
Yeah.
That Gemini told me.
The history of, I'm on Gemini right now. The history of
Okay.
metalworking is a long process that began with copper around 11,000 years ago.
Hey, I'm so sorry.
I got that one right. I think it was a combination of wood and a stone.
That's not what Gemini told me.
All right, whatever.
You're still up, so it's fine.
All right, okay. All right, your last question here. What is the main difference between concrete and mortar?
Concrete is two things and mortar is one thing?
No, that's not. No.
Concrete is made of two things. Mortar is one.
No.
Mortar is
that's not,
in concrete.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to give you one more guess. None of these are close enough to...
I don't know. I don't know what answer you're looking for.
I'm going to go with that's a wrong.
Okay.
That's a wrong. So mortar is the absence of aggregate.
So mortar and aggregate make concrete.
Sort of, but mortar is not one thing. Mortar is Portland and...
Oh, I'm right. You knew
No.
what I was saying. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're gonna be like that.
No, we're not going to be like that, but I just didn't
Okay,
find that to be
okay.
close enough. I didn't. So, okay.
Okay.
I didn't find it to be close enough. So, all right, give me the last one here. Moving on.
All right. This week we went to a truss factory. Remember
I
that?
trust you. Yeah.
Remember we went there?
Yeah.
What is the term for the vertical structural member in a truss that connects the top and the bottom cords?
A web.
I don't find that to be close enough. It's a web member. The whole thing is a web. So you're wrong.
No, I'm right. Okay,
Nope,
let's not.
you're
It's
wrong.
only the second episode.
You're
Do not get like this right now. Do not get like this.
All right, whatever. You win.
All right,
Congratulations.
I would have won anyway, so it doesn't even
You
matter.
win.
Tied 1-1. 1-1. Super exciting there. I did really enjoy that one, and I'm having a great time looking up these questions because I'm learning as I go.
Yeah.
It's really it's kind of like a two-headed attack here.
Yeah.
Learning.
It's pretty fun.
Having fun, and that's the beauty of it right there. So
Yeah.
when it comes to college and the trades, I think that was a really interesting topic. It got me kind of introspective a little bit because I went to college. I started in the trades. I said, I'm leaving high school. I don't care what everyone else is doing. I'm going into the trades. I'm going to work with my dad. I'm going to take over his business. And I worked with my dad for about 3 months, and I said, this sucks. I'm going to college. I don't want to work with my dad anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I did for like 6 years and then ended up back in the trades. And what I realized was it doesn't matter what you do. Both can be really great. You can have a great job that's not in the trades. You can also have a great job that's in the trades. I think the biggest thing is forcing children to decide what they're going to do with the rest of their life.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I was missing. The thing that was amazing for me to go to community college for 6 years or whatever was I just needed that time. I could not tell you one thing I learned while I was in college because I don't know, I was bebopping all around doing different majors and whatnot and barely going to class and whatever. But I needed that time to like grow up and like pick some sort of direction. When I was 18, I thought I knew what I wanted to do and I did not. And it was really evident really quickly, thank God. Then I decided to go to college and I just needed that time to like figure out life a little bit. So I think that it should be made more normal for people to take that break between high school and college, like for it not to be so normal that it's like this fall I'm enrolling in college. I think a gap year, a gap 2 years, a gap 3 years should be more normal.
Yep.
And it's not. And I think that is like the biggest thing. Kids don't know
the financial repercussions of the decisions that they're making at 18, taking out humongous loans because that's what you should do. Kids at 18 also don't necessarily know if they want to be a plumber for the rest of their life. They don't know anything almost. Kids need to just figure life out. And I think like doing a bunch of different stuff is important. And in the end, it doesn't matter which direction you go, as long as you have at least a good amount of confidence that you're doing something that you're going to enjoy and find fulfilling, and not doing something just because of the paycheck, because you realize that doesn't make sense. You know, you're at work so much. So I think that's the biggest thing. People need to spend more time thinking about the direction that they want to go, and just like relaxing in kind of the space that they're in at that time in young adulthood, and kind of marinating in that, because there's a lot of development, I think, that happens in that point of your life that's really important if it's going to decide the rest of your life. So that's my thoughts on that. Do you like that?
Beautifully wrapped up. Thank you very much for that.
All right, great. Well, that's it for this week. I'm excited with how much we're learning here. See that fly?
Go kill that fly. I saw it.
It's like huge too. I think it's been down here like just finding food for a long time, waiting for this battle. So if I don't see everyone next week, you'll know why. There might be a fly sitting here instead of me. So anyway,
right.
Till next time, this has been the Hardworking Happy Hour.
See you next week.